After a win over Butler yesterday at the Cole Center, the women's basketball team takes to the road for 3 games this week. The Badgers face in-state rival Milwaukee tomorrow at 7 p.m. before traveling to Las Vegas for the Lady Rebel Roundup on Saturday and Sunday. UW squares off against Mississippi on Friday at 4:30 p.m. and then will face either UNLV or Tennessee State on Sunday. Head coach Jonathan Tsipis is here. We'll have some opening comments, then take questions.
You know, it's really good, I think, for our players to get a win yesterday after the work they've put in. And by no means was it a beautiful performance, but in all team sports, sometimes you just have to figure a way. And I thought our group was able to do that in the second half. Excited for them to be able to finish out a game, especially after the home game with St. Francis that we had the lead late and weren't able to hold on to it and be able to, after Wednesday's night loss at home against Dayton, to get right back into the gym on Friday and have probably our best practice of the year. So I'm happy for our players. I think we can build on this. There were some specific things that we took out of the game. The ability to get to the free throw line, I think, was a huge key for us. It gave us a lot of confidence to close the game out, and then the ability to change defenses. But I'm excited, obviously, as the flagship school. It's we're excited to play Wisconsin-Milwaukee tomorrow against a former Badger as their head coach and Kyle Reckless, and I think that part of things. We just have to continue to take one practice and understand it is a process. So we're looking forward to getting them back out today and watching film and working to get better.
Dennis?
You mentioned the first of your in-state rivalry games, and you're probably going to have 3 of them every year in your non-conference mix. How do they stand out in your head, and how much have you grown to grasp the significance of those games?
Well, I think it's really important as the 4 schools that have Division I women's basketball and just the connections back. Obviously, Coach Borseth's on his second tour at Green Bay, and they gave Notre Dame such a great game in the WNIT preseason semifinals on Thursday night, and they're a perennial NCAA tournament team. Just the welcoming that he has been, with me to the state. I've known him since he was at Michigan. Marquette got a giant win over a ranked Arizona State team this past weekend. And, I think being at Notre Dame and playing against Marquette and seeing Coach Keeger first as a player and now in the coaching spot. And then at Milwaukee, I think the four of us together can help grow the game even at the youth and the high school levels. And I think it's important when you see that part. I think yesterday's game was important, with Butler having one of the best players in the state from last year from Eau Claire, and just seeing that crowd support and everything. So I think it's great for the state. I think hopefully we can continue to build on that part of things and make girls and women's basketball as strong as possible.
Ryan?
What has impressed you the most about your freshmen so far?
They're having to learn on the fly. And I think that part of things, that they want that responsibility. They grasp the opportunity. Kendra Van Leeuwen, I think the hardest position in all basketball is playing the point, and she's having to do it as a freshman with some growing pains. But between her and Courtney Fredrickson, who have been in the starting lineup, and be able to just take care of things that sometimes didn't seem like they were that big a deal in high school. And I think Courtney yesterday, just having her back in the game with her presence to inbound the ball, to help us break the press. Yesterday, though, Gabby Gregory, I thought, obviously was a huge offensive spark for us. Really, when we were struggling in the first half, hit some shots for us, and then really got hit the basket that got us to the 3-possession lead, which obviously Butler came back and was able to whittle it down a little bit. But I think that part of they've taken my mantra. It doesn't matter what year you are. Once you're on the floor and starting lineups are over, nobody ever announces anything what year. So I like that part. They like to compete, and we're getting Abby Leshevsky back, and that gives us another option. And you've seen what Suzanne Gilreath can do in the exhibition game and how good of a shooter she is. Hopefully Grace Mueller, we can get healthy. So I like the fact that they want to be in there and compete day in and day out.
With Abby back, you have 5 bigs now that you've kind of rotated in varying amounts. Is that matchup dictated or performance as you see how they're playing on any given game, or how do you decide who gets the bulk of the playing time up there?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we go in the game with an understanding of who is the best post player, who do we need to have on our team guard that and would be the most successful from a defensive standpoint. And we really kind of went into yesterday's game knowing that Marcia would be the first post off the bench. We thought her athleticism and kind of that part of her toughness would help on the defensive end. And, when we start with Kendall Shaw, we want to try to take advantage of her ability in the low post and her touch. And I think with Milena and Abby, it's a little bit of a feel part of things and what would be the best part, when teams are changing defenses, or yesterday where they strictly played zone. Is there a better matchup for us offensively to have certain people in certain spots? But I think the good part, they're all gaining a little bit of time. Abby didn't get quite as much yesterday, and that wasn't anything with her. We just felt like we had a good rotation with Marcia and Avi, and then at times going a little bit smaller, especially late in the game and when we went offense-defense when they lost their best post player. We felt like we could move around a little bit better, press a little bit more with the smaller lineup.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thanks,
you.
Jonathan.